I shall welcome friends. Welcome to another exploration of the spirit world in which we will interact with spirits on many levels, any level, past or future too, and help some of them if they need some help. Retrievals and rescues and contacts. For me, they're all, a slight variation on the same phenomenon. And as Priscilla mentioned before we started recording, it's all about imagination. Imagination is your tool to project. And if you're using your mental abilities to imagine, then I would say to you, your mental body is actually traveling. Not your astral body, your mental body. And I've always recommended to people for many, many years to try and travel in your mental body, because traveling in the astral body puts you at the mercy of emotions, strong emotions and desires, and not just your own, but those of people that you may contact, and can cause a fairly strong magnetism that can pull you away from what you can really do. Whereas in a mental body, you're a little more abstracted, you're a little more distant. You're not without compassion or sympathy, but you aren't overruled by it. You can operate more efficiently. So just to underline what Priscilla was mentioning, imagination is our tool. And I suggest that you not be in any way ashamed to use it. It's much more powerful than how shall I say, the analytical psychology of the culture we live in that tends to put it down and say, oh, that's just imagination. You want to forget all that. That's not of any good to us. And I think you all realize that, but I just wanted to emphasize it since it was brought up a few minutes ago. So if you are all ready to begin, let me move into the countdown. Here we all are together, moving into spirit, moving up out of our bodies in whichever position you find yourself comfortable, lying, sitting, eyes closed, hopefully. Don't be bothered with your physical eyes. And allow yourself to move on up out of your physical body. Move on up through the room that you are in, up through the ceiling. And if you're in a condo or an apartment, that'll be several ceilings. And move on up out through the roof of the building that you are in, and allow yourself to float above it. Give yourself a moment or two to look around at your community, whether it be urban or rural, and enjoy what you see. And if you feel at one and relaxed, let us now move into spirit. Let us now begin to explore on whatever level you feel that you should like to explore. And perhaps you don't have any strong desires at the moment, and spirit guides might give you a little push in some direction. That's fine too. And allow yourself to move into whatever contact or rescue you think might be waiting for you. That's a person, that's groups of people, that's any number, any assemblage. 2, 3, 5, 10, just one, whatever. And I wish you well on that. and we'll reconvene as usual in about 15 or so minutes when everyone's feels like they're ready. And until then, au revoir.
Gordon, they're
Yes.
starting to come back now.
Okay, just a couple of minutes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, David.
Mm-hmm.
You think everyone's ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I got a little tied up myself there. So please return to your bodies slowly and carefully, and make sure to bring back all your little bits and pieces of sympathy and compassion and love, and bring them back into your body, and don't leave them at the point of contact. I think you all know how to do this at this point, but I just wanted to remind you. So back down through the roofs of the buildings that you're in, the ceilings, back down into the room that you have left your body in, and rejoin it. And when you feel comfortable and ready to speak, please let David know.
Okay, Marge, you'll be the first one.
Okay. I was brought up through the roof of the house with the help of a couple of my guides, Archangel Michael and Raphael. For some reason, I felt a little sluggish and I couldn't kind of push through, so they were there to help. I felt a little. I met a tuxedo cat, and I said, this really wasn't a retrieval. This was just a meeting, I guess you could say. And a tuxedo cat is a black and white cat, and I don't know if. Anyway, I said, "Are you Gary Langley's cat?" Now I I don't know if Gary's cat was black and white. Maybe it wasn't. It's something. Do you know, Julia? Do you know? He was. It was black and white. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. He said no. He said, I'm Boxer, and I said, oh, Boxer. I said, how the heck are you? Boxer is a client's cat who had passed away in the winter time, and he had a golden glow all around his body. And I said, you've already transitioned, so you know that you've passed. But so I'm understanding that you probably have a message for Carrie and her cat. She had 5 cats. Well, she has 5 cats now. And he said, yes, he said, and she was very distraught, obviously, about his passing. She said, yes, I want you to tell them that I sent that little black kitten to their household. And one of the cats that I really work an awful lot on, his name is Phinn, and he's a big, huge, gray, fluffy Manx, I guess. He's just huge. He's lovely, but he suffers from anxiety. So this little black kitten that came into their life, Phinn, joined up with this little kitten. Like they just fell in love with each other right from the start. The other cats, nonchalant. They couldn't kind of care less. They went, oh, a kitten, big deal. So, but I thought that was funny. But I think this kitten's name is Juno, and he was there to uplift the family. So Boxer had asked him if he would go to her place so that they wouldn't mourn so much over his passing. So the two of them, Phinn and Juno, now are inseparable. I told Boxer, I said, yes, I will tell Carrie about this, that, I had this meeting with Boxer today, and I asked Boxer if he would appear to Carrie in the physical so that she would know that he had crossed and he was very happy where he was and he had made the transition beautifully and was doing fine. I asked him, I said, by the way, did you ever meet up with Bruno, who was also Carrie's Boxer? And he said, yes, we run together an awful lot through the meadows that are right below the mountains here, across the Rainbow Bridge. So I have that message that I will deliver to Carrie sometime this afternoon and tell her and just ask her to keep her eyes open if she feels that she sees something out of the corner of her eye, to take a look, because it may be Boxer coming back to say, I'm fine. That's it.
Wow, that's a really cool animal one you got there.
Thank you.
I like it.
Yeah. Thanks, Marg. Very heartwarming, that.
Thank you, Gordon.
Just proves that the animals have life after death too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially domestic pets.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing my cat that was around for 15 years. Hoping that he'll be there. He'll be there when it's my time. Yeah.
Oh, he will be. He will be. Absolutely. Absolutely. They do meet you when you cross. So you will absolutely meet them. No question about that. But it would be nice. Maybe you could ask him in your walks when you go for a walk in the forest or where you go, if you could say, could you please come back and show yourself to me?
Yeah.
Because it really does happen, and you really, really do see them. And I was shocked when it happened with me, but I got a voice first.
Yeah.
And then, so a voice, which I think was probably from my guide, and then Shiva appeared, and it was just because she knew how distraught I was over her passing. So it was lovely. It was a confirmation that she had crossed and she was fine and loving where she was. So I'm sure you will, David.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Okay. Yeah, I've told my wife that too several times, that he'll be there for both of us when it's her turn also.
Absolutely.
Plus a couple other pets that we had. Oh, thanks, Margaret. Anything else for Margaret? Okay. Larisse, go ahead.
Okay, when we first floated up above our buildings, it was kind of quiet, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then, and then Dorothea showed up, and she said, "I want to show you something." I said, "Okay." So she, the last time we did this, I remember that we did a prison, and some people were scared, and one guy got away. Although we tried to prevent that from happening, one guy got away. And she said, "I want to show you where he went." So we went to this place. I don't think it's a real place on Earth. Like, it seemed to be created by spirits that hadn't crossed. They were just kind of in that middle place. And it's very, hierarchical. Like, I couldn't tell if it was a prison or a mental hospital. And she said, "Well, it doesn't really matter, because they just organize themselves into these things because they don't know what else to do, and they're scared, and they just did this because this is what they're familiar with. So they just reenact stuff that's happened to them in life." And I said, what should we do about this? And she said, "Well, there's several ways we can go about it, but first I want you to talk to the head honcho or whatever, and see what he's see what he's up to." So I went and I presented myself to him, and I started asking him questions. And I was just trying to find out, like, what is this place and what are you doing? And he he didn't seem to mind talking to me, which I was kind of surprised. But he basically said that he was, because I said, "Aren't you, like, tired? Aren't you sick of doing this? Don't you wish your life could be a different way?" And he said, "Honestly, I do, but I'm afraid." And I said, "What are you afraid of?" And he said, "Well," I said, "you could go on to a place where things would be much more harmonious for you and everybody else." And he said, "I'm afraid. I think if I let go of this, I will be annihilated. I won't exist." And I said, "That can't happen." And then he just kind of, looked at me sideways, like, what are you talking about? Of course it could. I said, "No, that could not happen." And I asked him about his background, like how he had grown up, and he had a very, his whole life had been organized like that, like his parents and his schooling, and he didn't know anything else in that particular life, and he didn't remember any of the others. So we were going back and forth, and I said, "Well, then if you don't want to come with us, I guess we'll just take whoever will come with us, because there's no need for this place to exist." And he got really upset with me. And so we started rounding up some of the others, and we just said, "Who wants to be free?" And of course, not everybody, but probably over half of them. And we just said, "Shake off, just stand up and shake off your," we were demonstrating, like, stand up like this, shake off your whatever chains or manacles or, handcuffs or whatever you got. Get rid of them. You can do it. You can do it. We'll show you how. And she also had, I think I mentioned him last time. We rescued a doctor once that she had worked with when she was on Earth, and now he comes and helps us in spirit. And because he had so many regrets about what he had done in his life. So he was there, and he was helping us round up those who did want to leave. And we had quite a few. And we got the train going and everything. And so I was going back and forth between getting the people on the train and talking to this guy, trying to get him to budge. And he was, like I said, really upset that we were removing his, subjects or whatever. And we said, but you're completely welcome to come with us. This doesn't have to be, it's not against you or anything. We just don't think anybody should live this way, including you or anybody else here. And, you have the opportunity to be free. You have the option. And he had some people left who were just too entrenched to get up and go, even if they did see other people standing up and doing it around them. They just didn't. So, but he was watching, and he was quiet, and he had stopped, screaming at me and spitting at me and all the other stuff he was doing. And so we left it there, and she said, we'll come back, and I bet you he'll be ready then, because more than half of his prisoners or subjects got, taken, and you put a new idea in his mind. Maybe we'll try again later. It's okay. We did pretty good for the first time. So then, as before, I didn't get on the train with them. I just made sure that everybody who wanted to was on there and everything. And they're already starting to, there were some that were really quiet and didn't know and scared, but there was already starting to be some celebrating going on when the train left. So that was it for today.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. And I asked, maybe I missed, that was a prison as opposed to a mental institution?
Well, I wasn't sure what it was. We had been at a prison the time before, and we've been at mental hospitals that were pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And so it was kind of a cross between the two, and I don't think it was a real place on Earth. Like, it wasn't reconstructed. It was sort of constructed from these people's memories of how things were in their life, and it didn't have a replica. It wasn't a replica of anything. It was, I don't know what, just sort of a thought form kind of a thing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they exist. Thought forms of earthly institutions exist in the, how shall I say, the borderlands between our world and the next. And
that's exactly where we were, and it had just been created by these that wanted to continue, and they were afraid to try anything else. It's just like, this is how we know, so make this real.
Yes, exactly. And there are a number of, any kind of institutionalized lifestyle can create that. A church, a temple, a monastery, any number of situations like that.
I've seen a church. Yeah, I've seen a church.
And they're going on, not in the summerland of the spirit, but in this sort of misty halfway place, because they don't know what else to do, and they don't fully believe that they should, belong or deserve to be in the heaven worlds for whatever number of reasons, unworthiness, whatever. You can find a lot of them around, and so I suspect your intuition on that one was correct.
I've got a couple comments to make, Clarice. So this is a continuation from your rescue of last time.
Yeah,
Is
pretty
that
much.
correct?
Yeah. At first,
So
I didn't see the tie-in, but then she
Mhm.
said it was that guy that got away. I wanted to show you where he went.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a part 3 next time.
There might. You just
Might
never
not
know
be
about
over.
her. She's really organized.
I also thought it was pretty interesting about the doctor that you said that he is now passed over and he's helping with us now.
Yeah, he came the time before, and then he was here again today.
Mm-hmm. So it shows you that when it's our time to go in the afterlife, maybe anybody that wants to, I think I want to be one of those helpers.
Oh, I know I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is a guy on I don't know if you've ever listened much to the Leslie Flint recordings.
Yeah, some of them I
Yeah,
have.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, there's a guy on there's the first transcription I ever did on there. It was a guy named Dr. Frank or Dr. Frankie who died in the prison camps of the concentration camps of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And he was and then he went to this, and he tells a story about going to the spirit world and help, and he tells this whole story about how he ends up helping people. Well, he was killed because he wouldn't do what the soldiers wanted him to the people in the concentration camp, and then he went to the spirit world, and he tells his whole story. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it is him, but it reminded me of him when I loved that story. I love that whole thing. He's such a person, he's the kind of person you'd want to meet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard a lot of the Leslie Flint stuff, Clarice, but I'm not sure I heard that one, but I'll watch out for it.
Yeah, I think it's just Dr. Frank or Frankie, Franke. I think, I don't know. I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll check
It's
it out.
long, actually. It's probably about 45 minutes long, which is longer than most of them, but he's very understandable.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, thanks.
Julia, did I see your hand raised?
Well, I was just going to give some feedback to Larissa. I so appreciate the detail. I mean, we can always rely on her to provide this incredible, vivid story. It's like she's reading from a book or something. You said about part 3, so thank you, Larissa. That was amazing, and thank you, Margaret, for your beautiful animal story as well. Thank you so much. I feel so pathetic here, but I'm happy to be listening. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
How about you, Gordon? What were you hearing and doing during the meditation?
Okay. I initially thought of it's just a typical rear-end car accident here in Toronto a day or so ago, where a drunken teenager slammed into a family van and killed everyone in it. And it made the local news, pretty tragic. And I checked at the time when I first heard of it, yesterday sometime, and asked Spirit was my help required, and they said no, it's okay, we got them all. And I should also add, at the time, I was given the information that the spirit guide or a spirit guide of the young man drinking and driving, who had obviously had a bad habit of that, was well aware that this could be his last crazy drive, and had alerted some other spirits in the case of some upcoming collision that he was pretty sure was going to happen. And the other spirits, I guess they can see slightly into the future, saw the car that was going to be hit and got to it and pulled out the 3 people. I think it was a mother and 2 children, I'm not sure, and pulled them out just at the point of impact. So that's why I was told, no, it's okay, you can forget about that. So also another news story that intrigued me, and some of my American friends might know about this. 2 days ago, maybe 3 days, maybe, there was another series of tornadoes in, I think, what they call Tornado Alley. Is it Missouri, Kansas?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I believe 30 odd people were taken out by that. And for some reason, I'm always very touched by that. I mean, there's many natural disasters, floods and fires and all sorts of stuff going on all the time. But there's some reason I'm always touched by the tornado. And it's partly because my reading on uh, psychics who feel themselves in touch with nature spirits and have written about it, and I put this in my memoir, seem to accept what the nature spirits say, that they try to control the ferocity of the storm, but there's just some things they cannot do. And I keep saying to myself, what, you mean you can't guide a tornado around a community rather than right through the middle of it? This is the sort of thing that annoys me about nature spirits, is this assumption that, oh, we're just doing what we're told and we're kind of helpless little fellows. And it kind of annoys me. And maybe that's something I have to confront on my own inner journey. But anyway, just to give you a little background. So I proceeded, I asked if there was still people not saved or passed on from this. And they said, yeah, there's a few. So I found myself with a man who, middle-aged man, maybe slightly older, who was really angry because the house, his house was either destroyed or partly destroyed. And he said, I've only just finished fixing it up from the last time. And so I empathized with him and thought right away, oh, he doesn't know he's dead. He just thinks he's badly injured and the house is damaged. So he asked if I could help. And I said, no, I'm not really, a construction guy. But you know what? I know somebody that's going around the neighborhood who is. Let me go get him for you. And this is something I hadn't done before. And I sort of disappeared for, a few seconds and asked the spirit, can we get a guy that's like a small time construction guy with a truck and some lumber and some tools? And they said, yeah, sure. So this sort of got manifested, and I'm standing beside this not ancient but fairly old lumber truck, and the guy invites me in, and I sit in the passenger side beside him, and for some reason I'm thinking, oh, isn't this cool? I'm in this old lumber truck. I've never been in one before. And we trundle along, and we get to the space where the man is standing by the house, and he looks very happy to see him. And the spirit guide who's play acting the lumber truck construction guy gets out and walks over and, starts exchanging a sympathetic conversation with the guy. And I stand back and kind of let them do it. And the guy says to me, "Are you not?" I said, "No, not me. I'm hopeless at this kind of thing, but this gentleman here will definitely help you." And I stand and listen to them chatter a little bit, and then when it seems and they start like lifting lumber off the truck and getting things sorted out, and and I'm pretty sure the guy that's pretending to be the lumber truck guy will eventually reveal to the fellow that he is a spirit guide taken to get him to move on, because he is standing beside basically a thought form of his house or his former house. And I thought, no, I can split. So I sort of waved goodbye and said, no, listen, I gotta go help some other people in the neighborhood, and I'll see you later. You seem to be doing all right. He seemed grateful, and off I went. And then I was guided to a woman and two children in a car, which I think had been destroyed in the storm, but they thought they were still driving. So it'd been pretty instantaneous, I guess. And driving along in a thought form car, trying to get away from the storm. And I jumped in the car, and the lady looked at me and said, "You too, eh?" And I said, "Yeah, I had to get away from that storm. It was crazy." And she's accepted me, like the fact that I just jumped in the car sort of without thinking. And then after a while, we're motoring along, and she said, "How did you get in the car?" And then she looked a little suspicious. And I said, "Oh, I just happened to come by and get in," like some generic kind of excuse. And then she was kind of suspicious. And she said, how do I know I can trust you? You're not going to rob us or abduct us. So she's still going with like physical plane reality, like I'm some kind of strange fellow that jumps in their car when it's going slowly and attempts to, rob them, whatever. And I said, no, that's not me. I'm just here to help you. And she says, well, how can you do that? And I said, well, what did I say then? I can get you out of this situation if you want, and away from the whole storm and the car and everything. Words to that effect. And again, she looked pretty distrustful and sort of looked at me like, oh, yeah, sure. And I said, if you just pull over just for a minute, I'll show you how I can do it. And of course, that aroused even more suspicion. Pull over and stop? Yeah. But somehow, I don't know, I managed to convince her to stop at the side of the Thought Farm Road. And I said, now, if we get out, all four of us, the mother and the two kids who were like kind of cowering in the back seat, looked to be about 5 and 7 years old, approximately. I said, if we all stand together, I can move you on to a much nicer place. And then she started to twig that I wasn't like a real physical person, that I was some kind of helper or angel or guide or something. And I said, yeah, it's okay. You can trust me. I said, we just have to stand close together. And of course, the kids were like crowding into her right away. I didn't have to encourage them to do anything. I thought maybe I'd get them to hold hands, but no, they ran right up to her and were like very close to her torso and hanging on to her. And I said, okay. So I held her hands and I said, we're going to go to a much nicer place. And I said, you might even meet some people that you know. And I could see that she was thinking of a couple of people. And it was either a former husband or a husband who'd taken off with another woman or had died young or something. Although it could have been a brother or a father. It was very quick. But I could see she was having sort of positive thoughts about that possibility. And I moved them on to, I said, an entry level that will be suitable to these types of people. And we went to one, and I'd probably set up, right after the tornadoes. Although I think in that part of America, there's enough tornadoes that these places are there all the time, ready for the next, storm, as it were. And a lady came out and greeted them and said, oh, great, you're here. Wonderful. Come on with me. And the lady still looked a little suspicious, but because it was a lady of her sort of class and countryside manner, and these were rural people for sure, and spoke in a way that was more comfortable to her, she seemed to trust her immediately, and asked me if I was coming, and I said, no, I've done my bit. This lady will look after you now, and good luck to you. And off they went. And that's just, when David said to me, are you ready, Gord? I was still kind of in the middle of convincing this lady that I could be trusted. So that's pretty much what happened.
Pretty interesting how you can be interrupted for 20 seconds and then go right back into it again.
I think it's a bilocation thing, David. I think I learned to do that I say some time ago. What do I mean? 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. But I think it's one of those limitations. At first you think, oh, I can't do that. And then at some point you start doing it and go, oh yeah, I can bilocate. I can leave part of myself there and I can go back to physical reality and communicate with somebody and then go back. Just another of those limitations.
So you were pretty busy today. The busiest I've ever seen you.
Yeah. There's definitely some days where I can't quite get focused, or I go somewhere and there's nothing you can do. They're so resistant and angry and distrustful that you just have to give up. But today seemed to work pretty good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that with us.
Sure.
Priscilla, did you have a comment on that, or did you have your own?
Yes, well, I could talk about my own, but I have a comment about living in a tornado country.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in Arkansas. I'm in north central Arkansas, and those tornadoes could have come my way, but a couple nights ago, but pretty much missed us. Now, I have a local friend who's claims that the psychics in the town put a dome over Mountain Home, Arkansas, over Baxter County, Arkansas. They put a dome of protection over the county during these times, and that it works. And she is just convinced of it. And I
Wow.
mean, so I talked to her this morning and I said, thank you. The storms bypassed this area. But yeah, it can be what a way to live. Now, I grew up with earthquakes on the West Coast, but I can live with tornadoes, especially if somebody's putting up a dome of protection.
Yeah, right.
Well,
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
thanks for that, Priscilla. I really appreciate that bit of information.
I mean, do you think it's valid?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I've heard other stories about domes of protection, and I've in fires, floods, the whole 9 yards, all of those things, at various times. And I've when you see me talking in my book about putting thought bubbles around deceased either IDF soldiers or Hamas fighters in Gaza and moving them on, and sometimes groups of children, dead children. And that's kind of like a protection dome. I wouldn't have called it that. I've learned to call it a thought bubble. And you just create a bubble around them, and it helps because you get to the point where you can say to people, okay, let's all go hand in hand. And if there's too many people, that's too awkward. So if there's only 2 or 3 people, I'll say, okay, hold hands and we'll all go together. And that sort of guarantees that you'll move together. But when that got a little too awkward, I started using the thought bubble thing. And, as usual, it gets suggested to you by spirit, and you go, okay, I'll do that. And then, hey, it works. So there's a similarity there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You go ahead and explain the experience that you had today.
Me?
Yeah.
What? Okay, I found myself in my grandmother's house. She had a nice big house in the city, San Francisco, and that's where all the family gathered, and it was a big family. So I found myself in my grandmother's house, and I found her, and we had a conversation. She looked well, and I apologized to her for the way I moved out on my 18th birthday. I had been living with her for a few months as I finished high school, and but I didn't like all of her. She was very strict, and it made me mad because of the circumstances. So as soon as I turned 18, I grabbed my stuff or got a taxi cab, and I was out of there. And I didn't even have the grace to say anything to her. I was just gone. And my mother had to, smooth down her ruffled feathers. And now in my old age, I feel bad for the way I did it. I mean, she couldn't have done anything when I was 18. I mean, you can't call the police and say she's running away. So anyway, I apologized to her, which I felt good about. And she was gracious. And then I asked her, how's everybody, or who else do you see? And she told me about her brother and her sister. She talked about my father. And I had a little conversation with my father. And then I asked about my brother, my oldest brother, who had a schizophrenia, mild but serious schizophrenia condition, and he passed away about 15 years ago. He wasn't happy. He was not happy, and I tried to help him, but there didn't seem to be anything I could do. I tried to help him. I tried to get his old violin teacher to come help us. Ultimately, I said, he's draining my energy. I better put a bubble of light around both of us, send some bright light around us both, and I better get out of here because he's draining my energy. And then I went back to my grandmother's house and I said, we need to pray for Peter. He's not happy. And so then I got out of there. Then I came back to my body.
Wow, nice going. There's a lot of stuff that you did in that
Yeah.
experience.
So, Priscilla, your grandmother seems to be living a happy, settled life
Yeah, she
over
seemed
there.
to be fine. She was fine.
Good, good. Glad to hear it.
Larice, go ahead.
Back to the tornadoes for a minute. I have a friend in Norman, Oklahoma, which that's part of Tornado Alley, and she, since moving there, she has learned to steer tornadoes around the, like, Norman and Moore and the communities that are right next to each other. She has a really interesting attitude about the storm. She said, "Oh, they're destructing everything, but they're not. That's not intentional. Like, they're not out to destroy. It's what they do." And she said, if I just get their attention and just kind of gently nudge them around, they're fine with it. That's what she said. But it actually works. I mean, it starts coming in the path, and then she'll do whatever she does, and then it didn't hit them. It went around them.
Well, that's
Isn't that
another good
something?
story. Thanks for that, Larissa. I appreciate that. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Margaret?
Yeah, on the same subject line that we were talking about, I was just going to say, Gordon, have you seen this video that's on? Now, this is about a wildfire, but I have two questions. I have two things to tell you here. First of all, you should look at Twister on Prime Video. It's about people that get swept up in a hurricane, in a tornado, and they survive, and it's pretty gruesome, but it's pretty amazing. But there is a video out there where there's a wildfire going in this community, and there's a woman there who has a barn, and the fire is coming towards her barn, and she sends a message to the spirit fire to say, can you move around my barn so that it is not hit? And you see on the video a little person in the fire that she actually took a video of, and he said yes, he would move the fire around her barn, and she was spared. It's quite astonishing. I don't know if it's an AI thing or whatever. I mean, it probably could be, but she said, this is the actual video I took of the fire, and you can see the little spirit man in the fire.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. So that is true about that, and I think we probably all believe that you can, put a dome over a county, a country, all that kind of stuff for protection, Priscilla. So I think it's really wonderful that you told us that story, because you can actually make it happen.
So, Marg, can you send me a link to that video?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I know I sent it out to a lot of people quite a while ago. I'm hoping I still have it, but I'll look for it and I'll send it to you. I can send it to everybody if you like.
Thanks,
But
Marg.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, Julia.
Yes, with regard to domes of protection, I'm really concerned about Gaza. I've mentioned this before. I heard on the news this week, and I'm trying not to watch too much news, it's so horrific, that it's far worse there than what's coming out, and what we're hearing is horrendous. I mean, Gordon, what can we do if we don't have your capabilities of OBE expertise? What can we do to try and help? Because why isn't there a dome of protection over the whole of Gaza? It's absolutely horrifying what's going on there, and I just wish that I could do something, and I just wish that more could be done. So why is all this suffering being permitted, and what can we do to help? Because it's just so evil. It's genocide.
Well, yes, it is. And one of several situations in the world that are currently going on. My suspicion is that you can't, putting a dome over a large area is a lot of work and would take more than one willing psychic. I could be wrong. I did talk, so that's my first reaction. And plus, part two is my understanding, which may not be shared by you or others, that people are involved in these horrible civil wars, and they're ongoing. This is awful. The one in Syria was just as bad, and it's still going on, as far as I can tell, bits and pieces, as the government changes and the oppressors now become the oppressed. There's been some killing going on there. My sense, Julia, is there's a fair bit of karma involved here. And people are, and I don't want to point a finger at any one group, but lots of these people are living out a karma from past lives where, they accumulated karma by being ruthless and cruel to each other. So I think there's, in situations like that, there can be what I would call a higher law that prevents the dome of protection going on, because if you do that, you could prevent people from experiencing what they need to experience from their karma. That's one other way of looking at it. I should also mention, in one of my earlier books, which I was rereading because I'm putting an Audible track on it, the one called More Adventures in Eternity. There's a section where I talk about being out of body and discovering an energy situation over Palestine, Israel. This is like 25, 30 years ago, where energy is projected down into the troubled areas like that. And it's a blessing of light, if you like, in which incarnate souls can, who are caught up in that situation and wish to escape it spiritually by not being resentful and hateful and angry, can attach to that beam of light. And it can help them cope, not necessarily die, but just cope. And I found myself participating in the projection of that beam from the astral plane. And just, you join it, it's like a big spotlight, and you just join your energies to it, and you project your personal version of the energies of love and forgiveness and healing, just as an exercise without expectation of result, And as I say, that was 2007, I'd say, when I discovered I could do that, or discovered I could participate in that. So that is something else I could suggest that you might try in your meditation. Just go with the description I gave you and meditate yourself into that position and join that beam of healing light.
Oh, yes, thank you, Gordon. It's very contentious, isn't it? Although you could be absolutely right to think that these people who are dying horribly now, and a lot of them are children, of course, also innocent animals, that it is some kind of karma, but it's controversial, isn't it?
It's terribly controversial. And
yeah.
I've got Jewish friends here in Canada, and I've got friends from the Middle East that are certainly not Jewish. And I have to be careful what I say, because, as you probably know, that declaration by the British Parliament in 1917 that Israel deserved a homeland in Palestine, that got the ball rolling, that pleased the Jews, but it did not please the Arabs. And if I meet somebody from an Arab background, they will actually bring that up in conversation. You Brits and that Sykes-Picot agreement, you ruined it for us. You know, this kind of stuff. They can get quite angry about it. And whereas Jewish people tend to be a little more sympathetic because they feel like the Brits stood up for them when nobody else would. So, you know, my Scots accent gives me away.
Well, if
So
nobody,
absolutely, it's a very contentious situation, and I try to play my cards very carefully.
Any other comments before we wrap this up?
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
I have found a small group of people here locally, and we're meeting once a month, and we've met twice. And these are people interested in the paranormal. And it was suggested that next time we meet, we should try to send our energy off to someplace to, you know, our intention to better the world, to help people. Anyone got a suggestion here on? Oh, I guess we send a beam of light to the war-torn areas of the world, huh?
Yes, that would be my choice.
Yeah, that's as good as anything, Priscilla. Why not inspire them to do that?
So pick one area, maybe. I mean, can we pick all the war-torn areas in the world?
You can if you want, but that will dissipate the energy that you're generating.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Good luck on your meeting.
Thank you.
So we meet the first week and the third week of every month, first and third, and you're going to get notices. So the next meeting is going to be June 4th. And you'll be getting notices by the GG or me. I send emails out to everybody. And I thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you soon.
And thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is great.
Priscilla, you must ask some of your friends to come along here. That would be lovely to meet them if they're interested.